AI mapping is a project where we're using large language models and generative AI to simplify business applications. You can interact with the application by asking it a question, and Gen AI will generate the necessary code to do complex spatial analysis. In this example, the app is wired to some supply chain data. So I can ask it questions like, find a factory near Berlin and a store near Houston. Gen AI is actually identifying the locations in my question and generating code to call an ArcGIS geocoding service and then do a proximity search on the appropriate feature type for each location. Show the quickest route from the factory to the store. Gen AI is now generating the code to call an ArcGIS multimodal routing service. And it shows you that the quickest way to get freight from the factory in Germany to Houston is by air and then by truck. Show the route with the smallest carbon footprint. Gen AI is now actually going to adjust the previous query, and instead of using time as the cost factor, it's going to use carbon emissions as the cost factor. So you can see that it switched the route from air to sea, and then by rail, and then by truck. Who supplies parts to this factory? Gen AI is now actually going to generate an open cipher query, the language needed to query graph databases. So it's querying an ArcGIS knowledge graph service to identify all of the part suppliers for this factory. Who supplies materials to these suppliers? In this case, Gen AI is going down 2 levels into the graph database, and it's identifying all of the raw material suppliers in this supply chain. You can see that a product that's being consumed in Houston has a fairly large global footprint in terms of supply chain. So I can now ask it a question like, show me the risk in the supply chain. In this case, Gen AI is actually calling a separate AI model that's been trained on risk data, unstructured data about political and labor
There
issues.
are several assets in the supply chain that are currently at risk. The 228 part supplier and Noida part supplier are both facing possible labor strikes and delays which could significantly impact the supply chain. Additionally, the Waterbury material vendor is at risk due to possible political instability, which could also lead to delays or disruptions in the supply chain.
In this last step, we're actually grounding the large language model with private data that we've trained an AI model on. This process is called RAG, or Retrieval Augmented Generation. As you can see, questions that require complex spatial analysis can now be answered with the push of a button.